Hello guys, welcome back to Beyond the Checkered Flag. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Izzy.
And this is episode 14. And today we have a very special guest. She's very much an upcoming person in motorsport media. If you've seen Genesi Juniors or British F4, you will have seen her before. She's the owner of JS Trackside Media. So please welcome Jess Smith.
Hello.
Jess, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, we are good, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, just to start off, when did you first get into racing?
I first got into racing about 3 years ago when I saw a video on TikTok of Lando Norris racing. I was like, okay, this looks fun. I want to watch it. So first started out with F1, and then in September 2023, I won a competition and was invited to the British GT with Ted Tracks.
Nice.
And I spent the weekend with them and made those new junior friends, GB3, British GT friends, and it was absolutely amazing.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's so cool. So at which point did you decide that you want to do motorsport media?
I've always loved photography, and at one point I wanted to go into wedding photography and like event photography. And then I started watching F1 and I realised how much the media and everything like that and the photography plays a big part in everything that happens, like sponsorship wise in F1 and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Publicity is such a big thing now, and especially with the upcoming like new social media services, that it's becoming so much bigger than it was originally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously you started watching F1, but when did you start JS Trackside Media?
I've had this photography account since August 2023. I just post random things on it, not necessarily motorsport, just general pictures. And then I started with that September race at the British GT and posted a few pictures from that and tagged drivers. And I was like, oh, this is actually a good idea. But then in May of 2024, I officially came up with the name and rebranded everything and the logo and decided what I actually wanted to do. So yeah, it's been really quick, to be honest.
Yeah. It's crazy how quickly that's been able to build up for you and like turn into such a big thing.
Yeah.
It's been like not even a year yet, and we've grown so much.
Yeah.
It's very impressive. So what has been your favourite racing memory so far?
Oh, good question. I think that watching Reza win at Silverstone in that race 3, that was definitely a good moment. And then watching the podium with the team and the family, it's like it's that close-knit community, and you just feel so part of it when something like that happens. And it was amazing. And I think the racing was good as well, you know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just a easy start to finish. It was actually quite a tough race.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely very exciting. It was one of the best races of the year, I think.
Oh, I agree. So obviously people may also know you from when you went on Capital. So tell us what the experience was like getting to meet Lando and Oscar.
It was overwhelming, to say the least. I just remember my mum and dad told me that I was going on a podcast, and I was like, oh, okay then. And then the next day we were in London and we were doing this like fake podcast, and this guy walked in and was like, oh, I didn't know you were here. And they were like, we've got some time. Do you want to come on air with us on Capital Breakfast? I was like, I don't know. I was like, yes. And then we were talking, and then Lando and Oscar walked in, and I just remember my heart like stopping. And I've like literally never felt so close to being sick before. And then I was really quiet, and I was just like, Jess, just keep talking.
Yeah.
And then in the break, Lando looked at me and he laughed and he went, "You're shaking." I was like, "It was because you're sat next to me."
Oh my
It's
God.
incredible. So you really had no idea that this opportunity wow, you handled it very well.
Yeah.
That is like a very exciting moment, but I feel your terror. I also would have been absolutely terrified.
Yeah, my whole family knew what was happening. It was just me. They told I was going on a fake podcast. I was like, what kind of podcast is this, guys?
He just went in clueless. That's hilarious.
It's funny because the first thing that Jordan North said to me was, just make sure that you don't swear. I was like,
he knew what was coming.
I was like, wow, what have my parents told you about me.
You got a reputation before you even got
Yeah.
there.
He's probably scared that the FIA will be around the corner and be like, no.
You're gonna have to join Max.
I don't have that much money, mate. I can't pay your fines.
You're gonna have to do the community service.
What was your favourite race which you attended in 2024?
Oh, Silverstone F1. That was a good race. But I think, you know, everyone would say go into an F1 race. I think that the title deciders, Ginetta Junior's Brands Hatch, that was such a fun race. And also the one at Silverstone where Deegan won his championship. Like, there was, if you were talking to like people in the team, there was maths running through everyone's heads of like every possibility. And it was really fun because you sit there and you'd be like, oh, you know, we need to get this. And then something else had happened and you'd be like, what? And it like completely throw you off. You sat there doing maths really quickly. And it's so fun. Like, I think title deciding weekends because there's so many, especially if there's like between two drivers, because you tend to find that there's two different teams and two different sides of the story. Like, you know, they'll be plotting one thing and then we'll be plotting something else. And I just think it's a great atmosphere for everyone because at the end of the day, whoever wins, you know, you're still friends anyway. The team's still there. They still compete against each other. So I just think it's a really cool environment to be at one of them title deciding weekends.
And especially in like something like British F4 because so anything can happen. You don't go into a weekend going, I know this team's going to do good. I know this person's going to win. Like with F1, you can kind of predict it, but with F4, you have no idea.
That's what I love about Ginetta Juniors as well, is that like they can come around the corner once and you're like, right, okay, so they're in the lead. You come around the corner again and they're like last, and then the person from last is in the lead. So they switch up every lap because they have no fear. It's such racing. I think it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, 100%. What is something that you're grateful for with this racing community? Because as you've said, you've met a lot of people, but what is something that you're most grateful for in that situation?
I think the amount of people that have actually, like, I haven't been around, say, like these junior weekends that long. I've been going for just over a year now. And I think the amount of people who have stepped up and offered to help me when I haven't been there as often. I try and go to every race weekend that I can, but I haven't been around for years, you know, so it's the people who step up and go, actually, let me help you do this. Because one tiny little thing can trigger so many different things to happen. And it's been, just the support as well, not only from like fans, but like drivers and teams and like their families and friends. I've had a lot of help from them as well. And it's been really good. So,
yeah, that's nice.
Really cool. So what advice would you give someone who wants to like start out in motorsport media?
Go for it. You might not think that you have the confidence, but because like standing there and watching the driver and you'll go, oh, you know, I really need to speak to them, but I'm too scared. Just walk up and speak to them because you realise that when you're there, you're just on autopilot and you'll know what to say. You're just overthinking it before you do it. So literally just go for it. You will find the confidence when you're there. And don't be afraid of what anyone else thinks or says. I've had people, you know, comment on social media and things like that. Oh, why are you doing this and everything like that? And even people at school, like, why are you doing this? But it's what I want to do. And their opinion doesn't matter because I'm doing what I want to do. So ignore everyone else, do what you want to do. And you have always got the confidence. You just need to go and find it.
Yeah, I really like that because I feel like especially when you do things on TikTok, it's so fun, but there's so many people who are against whatever you're doing. No matter what you're doing, there's going to be someone that's like, that's not right. So the fact that you've been able to just ignore that is really inspiring because not everyone can do that.
But most of the time, it's jealousy as well. You'll find that you're in a better place than they ever have been and possibly ever will be in the future. And they don't have that opportunity, so they're jealous of you, but you've worked for it. You know, you've put in the effort, you've tried. So, you know, do what you want to do because no one else matters.
Yeah. So now just like a completely random question. Who do you think is the most underrated driver? It doesn't have to be F1, it could be any series you watch. Who
Ooh.
do you think's severely underrated?
Well, I've got to say, Mick Schumacher. I think
Okay.
he's rated because he was put into a team that didn't support him when he was put into F1, and it was all a mess. So I think underrated drivers. But in the junior series, I don't think we have underrated drivers. I think we have underrated series. I think that Ginetta Juniors is a series that people have heard of because of the likes of Lando Norris. But if you go to the races, there's so many people there, like in drivers with potential that no one sees. And people always says that Ginetta Juniors, is like the most expensive junior series. But I think it's so underrated because you can go, most people know about F4, F3, F2, F1, but not many people know about the likes of Ginetta Junior series or even like, lower karting series. I think they're underrated as well because you've got a lot of new talent coming into the sport. But if no one's watching these races, then no one knows about the talent that's going to be, we might have an F1 one day. So I think underrated series rather than underrated drivers.
Yeah,
that makes loads of sense. I feel like if it wasn't so much about money, I feel like we would have so much like more raw talent in like the higher up series. And I think there would be a lot more opportunities for people to do really well.
Yeah.
So as a McLaren fan, which I can see in the background, I see a McLaren hat. What is your opinion about the papaya rules drama?
Well, it was stressful. I remember being sat there like, what is going on? But at the end of the day, they did what they needed to do to win the championship. And that was what mattered the most. Because Lando said himself that he wasn't ready to win the drivers. So the Constructors' Championship mattered the most. And they did the logical thing. And it didn't seem logical at the time. But because there was races later in the year where similar things could have happened, but played out better. So we could have still had the papaya rules, but it could have been done so much better in a different race. But they did what they needed to do, and they did win the Constructors. So I don't know. I think it was odd at the time, but it worked out in their favour.
Yeah.
But it could have ended very badly if they got it right.
I feel like we've seen so many teams like completely tear apart a relationship with two drivers in the past. I think everyone kind of just panicked and like took sides. It was like a really weird situation of people assuming that they prefer a different driver over someone else.
Yeah.
When you can't really compare them because they've had completely different like experiences. Oscar's come in when the car has been good. Where Lando has had this car that he's had to wait and build up and go through multiple teammates. I think it's an impossible situation. So many people have their opinions on it, but in the end, you don't really know what's happening in the team. We have no idea what's going on behind doors.
Yeah, you can't compare the two either because, like we said, Lando's been with that car for what, 5 years, 6 years now. Oscar's come in 2 years ago, and they were building the car up then. Whereas Lando's been there since, when they were just getting podiums and things like that. So, but I also think that people comparing saying, Lando took 5 years to get his win and Oscar only took 2. That's the same thing. They've both had completely different cars. I think if they were teammates in like 2019 all the way through, then you would have been able to compare them. But because they have such different experiences within the sport, I think it's almost not fair comparing them.
Yeah, 100%. And what was it when you started watching F1? What was it about McLaren that made you think they're going to be my team?
Well, I first got into F1 because of Lando. So I thought, I'll support Lando because he was the one that got me into it. But then as I learned more about the teams, I liked the fact that they were a British team because I support all British drivers, but Lando is my favourite. So I liked Mercedes and McLaren because they were British teams. So, that's just personally what I picked because I picked Lando and he was in the same team. So it also made sense.
Yeah, fair enough.
So you have a very iconic Skittle question, and we were just wondering how you came up with your favorite color Skittle question. And may I ask, what is your favorite color Skittle?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask that.
My favorite color Skittle is purple. They're the best ones.
What's yours, Dave?
Green.
Mine's yellow.
Oh,
I don't think I've never heard someone say the yellow one before.
Yellow or orange are my favorite. So
I think Joel said yellow, but that's it.
Oh, did he? Oh, cheers.
I think so.
But how did you come up with it? Where did this all start?
I was in the car on my way to Snetterton, and there was loads of traffic, and it had been a horrible journey. And I was talking to Reza about how I wanted to start interviewing and things like that, because I did my first ever interview with Hugo Schwartz at Upton at the start of the season, and I did one with Reza, and they were both interesting. And I was like, I'm bored of my own questions. I was like, what do you want to be asked? So I asked him, like, what do you actually want to be asked that would interest you in the interviews? Because there's no point asking, how did the race go? When we're both stood there, like, bored out of our minds during this interview. And he was like, people never actually get to know the drivers. Like, asking do they have any pets, or what the favourite colour is, or what the favourite sweet is. So I came up with what's your favourite colour Skittle, and everyone loved it. I first did it at Silverstone with British F4, and the amount of people that, like, stopped and were like, what? And it was so funny because it actually, they were, like, detached from the interview. Then they'd actually have to, like,
actually think.
Yeah, and they're like, I've never been asked that question before, because it's not something people generally tend to ask.
Yeah.
I was like, well, let's actually get these drivers engaged, because otherwise all my interviews are going to be the same as every other person's interviews. So, yeah, I love asking random questions because it actually means that people are engaged in what we're doing. And it makes it more fun because I know what's coming. And I'm, like, excited to ask the question. And then they get told. And they, like, half of them laugh at me. And then think about it. And they're like, oh, I've never thought about that before. So, yeah, it was quite a random one.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Do you know, I did see Alex Berg said he doesn't eat them.
Yeah.
He didn't have a favourite colour Skittle.
They have Skittles in America, don't they? Or Canada.
Yeah, I think so.
Huh.
That hurt me.
Like a unanimous thing.
Interview, I just stood there and went, oh.
Oh, that's so funny. Have you had, like, a favourite driver that you've interviewed?
I mean, Lando and Oscar are up there because
of course
I beat them. Ollie Behrman, he was pretty fun. When I asked him his Skittle question, he walked over to me and went, "Oh my God, you're the Skittle girl." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, tell us a bit about that, because obviously we went to Autosport and you got to talk to, obviously, Thomas and Ollie. Tell us about that whole situation, what happened, because I was watching it from the side and I was like, well, what is going on?
I was stood by the merch stand and Thomas came over and I talked to him like earlier in the day about asking my Skittle question. I was like, is there any way you can help me? Like, literally, I will do anything to ask him my Skittle question. And I'd spoken to his dad as well, and his dad was like, we'll see what we can do. And then Thomas walked over and was like, oh, did you manage to ask him your Skittle question? I was like, yeah, but it didn't work because all the security were around us and I was literally walking after him and it was chaotic. And he was like, did it not? And I was showing Thomas the video and he was like, oh, that's a shame. He went, stay there. I was like, okay. And the next thing you know, Thomas and Ollie walk over and Ollie was like, oh my God, you're the Skittle girl. I was like, hi. So I actually
let me get my brother real quick.
I got to ask him the Skittle question twice. But in that video, he's holding my Skittles. And then I caused a family fight over Skittles.
I saw that. Thomas and Ollie started scrapping each other.
Oh my God.
They wanted the bigger bag of Skittles.
Because Thomas got sour ones and Ollie got normal ones. And they were fighting over them.
It was so funny. Anyways.
So who would be your dream person to interview?
Oh, I'll go for someone random, like Jenson Button. I think he'd be awesome.
Sorry, I really love Jensen Button like so much.
Yeah, probably Jensen Button, because I don't know. I feel like his perspective on F1 now has changed from when he was racing in it. I think people to talk to him about, if he was a driver now, how would he be able to balance everything? What would be different about it? So I think it'd be interesting to interview, especially because he worked with Braun and brought them to F1, their championship and everything. So I think it'd be really interesting to speak to him and also ask him, like, what team would he drive for? Who would his teammate be? Things like that I think it'd be cool to answer, because he's obviously driven in F1 before.
So. Yeah, I like that.
Really cool.
I just like something sprung to my mind when you said Jensen Button. You were at the Williams thing, weren't you? The Williams fan zone. Didn't you ask Zach O'Sullivan his favourite skill? And didn't you try to throw him a packet? And I think they broke. It was so bad.
Oh, they threw him the Skittles and they broke all over the floor.
Was you able to give him a new packet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Him afterwards, I gave him some and he laughed at me.
That is, I was there watching it and I was like, I swear that's Jess. I was like, I know that question.
It was also like an hour after I met Lando and Oscar as well.
Mate, you must have been buzzing.
I was walking around London with 2 bouquets of flowers and Skittles.
And a crown. So obviously you're trying to go down the pathway of motorsport media. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Monaco.
Living there?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What else? Give us the full detail of what you'll be doing.
Hopefully, F1's the big dream, working in F1 media and stuff like that. But I think in 5 years, maybe F2 or F3. I think, because this year we're working with 2 Ginetta Junior drivers. Hasn't been announced yet, but we are.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we can do British GT and touring cars. I think they're achievable because of how many of the races I go to. I basically live. So I think they're achievable, but I think, either F2 or F3 in the next 5 years. I think F1 and maybe in the next 7 or 8.
Yeah. We would definitely. I can see that happening. I want someone to ask Kimi Antonelli what his favourite skill is. It needs to happen.
It'll be...
Do you want to read the next one?
Read it.
One. Do you want me to say it? She can't read my handwriting. So if you was given the task of talking about a single race series for 12 hours straight with no stop, what one would you choose? I feel like I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to see where you're going with this.
I would choose British GT.
Oh.
Because there's so many different, like there's GT3 and there's GT4 that race at the same time. And it'd take me 12 hours to wrap my head about how the championship works.
Yeah.
I think British GT, it'd be quite fun to talk about. But also, Ginetta Juniors and F4, I could talk about forever because they're my favourites. I live there. Yeah. There's so many different, subsections in British GT. You've got Pro, you've got the AM, you've got GT3, GT4, and then you've got each car's got 2 drivers. So it's so confusing. I feel like it'd take me that long to figure out how it actually works. But,
yeah, that's so fair enough. Do you know what? I actually British F4 is probably my favourite series as well. I don't think it's talked about nearly and close to enough to what it should be.
No.
When I first watched it, I was literally like, why have I not been watching this my whole life? It's literally so fun, and being there, this is my first series where you actually get to be around the drivers and the teams and the garages. And I was like, I had no idea that you had this accessibility, because in F1 obviously you don't get that. So I had no idea that it was even a thing. When I took Isabella to GB3, she was like, "Well, we can be in here right now," and I was like, "Yeah, it's allowed."
It was so weird.
I
felt like I was trespassing. I was like, someone's gonna come take me away. I was like, should not be close to these cars. So, what is your biggest, do you think, racing unpopular opinion?
Oh, Hang on, I had one. What was it?
Okay.
Um,
Who's just gonna upset?
what was my biggest racing unpopular opinion? Oh right, yeah, that Mick Schumacher deserves another chance in F1.
Yeah. What team would you put him in?
I think he deserved the Mercedes seat, and he didn't get it, and it made me very, very sad. But I also think he should have been given a chance at stake. Now that they're Audi, and Mattia Binotto has always spoke very highly about Mick, and I think it was interesting not to pick him, especially when and for Mercedes as well, especially when he's been reserve driver for them for 2 years now. I think it was almost unfair on him not to pick, or even Fred Vesti. I think because last year he should have got a seat in F1, the same as Théo Pourchaire. You know, there's a lot of drivers coming up from F2 that, one, because of money, and two, because of seats and opportunities, are not getting that chance to get to F1. And I think it's unfair on some of them. When I like drivers, you know, like Checo, Kevin, Hulk, Bottas and everything, and like Lewis and Alonso, but I think we need new talent in. And I think this year is going to be interesting with 6 rookies on the grid. But I think, like last year, we got no new rookies because of the way that the contracts worked. But I think we should be getting in new talent at least, you know, once every year, every couple of years. But we're just not getting that because the likes of, you know, Kevin, Alonso and all them lot, they've been in the sport for how long? 10 years?
Yeah.
And we're just missing more and more drivers that have opportunity because we're keeping people who we think, you know, for that, like the reputation of the sport.
Yeah.
I think, you know, like replacing Lewis Hamilton with, I don't know, say Théo Pourchaire, and like Lewis being gone, I think that would lose a lot of the sport's popularity because and Max Verstappen and Alonso, they're such big names within the sport. You'd lose you know, sponsorship, fans, and everything like that. But you would also gain new talent, which I think we need in the sport.
Yeah, I agree. So I just want to get your opinion on something. Obviously, because we kind of have this situation in Alpine with Doohan obviously only getting given 5 races. What is your opinion on that? Because loads of people are excited for Colapinto, but I think everyone's kind of forgetting about the fact that Jack Doohan is starting on a back foot already.
Yeah. I don't think they should have shut down the rumours when they started. Like what Crofty said at Autosport, you know, they shouldn't have let them surface at all. And even if they did, shut them down instantly. But they haven't. And we've been told that he's only got 5 races. That's not helping him at all. I do feel really bad for Jack. I think he should be given the opportunity to, you know, prove himself. But I also feel really bad for Paul Aaron because he's a reserve driver for a reason. But now they've employed another reserve driver and it's been confirmed that he's going to replace Jack. I don't think it's all when that's what your job is as a reserve driver. You know, if someone's ill or someone he's replacing, you replace them. But now you're almost like the second reserve driver because Franco's had his chance in F1, which means that he should get a chance again. You know, I think Paul, who's never had a chance in F1, should be given that. And then if it comes to it, you know, you choose between Franco and Paul. I don't think they handled it very well, and I do feel really sorry for Jack.
Yeah. It's just like poor Aaron, like you said, he just hasn't had that chance to prove himself, and he had such a good start to his F2 season.
Yeah.
But I think the pressure kind of got to him a bit, obviously, because he knew that he could only afford 1 season, as he said. So people were thinking, oh, he shouldn't be there, Colapinto should, when they don't actually know. People don't like Jack Doohan. I see people saying that he's not good enough for F1 when he's proved himself. He has proved that he's ready to be there. He's been a reserve for a year. Yeah, it's his chance, and they're already taking it away from him. They've already got their 1 foot out the door.
Yeah, I feel like that's very unfair, especially with also all of the they're pushing a lot of media for Franco, and you're hearing nothing about Doohan. I'm like, that's your driver for next year. Like, all well and good, I love a bit of Franco content, don't get me wrong, but I'm just like, he's your reserve. Like, why are you like seat fitting for a reserve driver? Like, girl, and you don't see anything from Paul driver. You don't hear anything from the actual driver, anything from Paul, barely anything about Pierre.
Yeah.
It's a bit.
Yeah, it's been forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, I get that they want to play in a way safe by putting someone who has F1 experience in just in case the driver who they have isn't good enough. Like, that's fair. However,
You're to a certain level, you need to
for real,
give him a chance.
you don't know what Paul could do. Paul might be better, but you'll never know because you never give him the chance. So it's like flip-flops.
But also, they can't say that Jack doesn't deserve the chance when Jack has never had a chance. You know, you can't say he doesn't deserve something he's never had.
Yeah, I agree.
Then if he doesn't do well, then maybe he doesn't deserve the chance. But give him the chance to prove himself before you already take it away from him.
I agree. Now, the question that I think you're going to enjoy the most: if you could have a meal with 5 drivers, dead or alive, who are you choosing?
Now, I have a sub question. Can we have a family and friends table?
Oh, I think we can. I think we can add a couple more chairs onto it. Yeah, go on.
Make it like the F1 driver dinner.
What have you got in mind, Jess? We're intrigued.
So, number 1, karting driver called Layla Bell. She's incredible. This weekend, she was in an accident, dislocated her thumb, and then still managed to get P3. So,
wow.
She's incredible.
Oh, boss.
Freddie Slater. I mean, dare I say any more? Alfie Davis. He's a GT Pro driver. And he was in juniors last year. He's a vibe. He's so funny. Tom Ingram, touring car driver. Yes, I love him. Reza, because, got to bring the besties.
Yeah.
And now, for the family and friends table, I thought,
go on.
Do we bring Shan?
Yeah. Just tell everyone who Shan is, for those who will not know.
Shan is Reza's dad and the biggest cheerleader I've ever met. Actually, we bring the whole Seawortheren family. They can sit on their own table with Harrison, because, Harrison's a vibe.
Yeah.
And then we bring Alfie Davis's nan. She's my biggest cheerleader. Oh, I love her so much. Who else do we bring? We bring Freddie Slater's mum. She's incredible. We love her. We bring Tom Ingram's dog, Yuri. You've got to have
yeah, there's no.
Then you bring Chase Fernandez's mum. But also, if you bring her, you've got to bring Deegan Faircloug's mum. Because they're both as loud as each other.
Deegan's mum is the biggest queen I think I've ever met. She's so funny.
You'll meet Chase's mum this year. She's like copy and paste of Deegan's mum. She's just loud and chaotic.
Oh my god.
Then you bring Alfie Davis's dad, because number 1 cheerleaders have got to come. Jude Peters' family, they seem to love me too. So I told you this dinner's going to be massive.
Mate, if you're bringing Reza, you need to bring his brother as well. He's going to keep everyone on their toes on that golf buggy of his.
We love family.
I haven't mentioned it here before, but me and Jess have had many conversations about that golf buggy. It's my biggest op. Do you know what? One thing I do love about your response, they were all up and coming drivers, other than Tom Ingram. Like, I love your dedication to the junior series. People need to spend more time looking at them, because sometimes the racing is better than it would be in F1.
Yeah.
Dare I say.
Like, everyone was going to say, Senna and Schumacher. I don't want to be boring like that.
Yeah, be different. I love that. No one's ever bought a family and friends table, so...
And also, I already had Lando Norris take me to prom, so why would
I exactly
as well?
No one's prom day will ever match that. The hell? All right, do you want to ask the next question?
Well, yeah. If you were a character from the movie Cars, what character would you be?
And why?
Ooh. I feel like I'm kind of a bit of Mater, because I'm just that really annoying, loud best friend that's just like everyone's biggest cheerleader. But
I love that.
When I'm alone and like meeting new people, I'm like the quietest. I have no self-confidence at all. I will sit there in the corner on my own. Like, So, meeting new people is a big no for me. But I go out and do it anyway because, you got to make them connections.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I feel like a bit of Mater, everyone's cheerleader.
I love that. I actually love that. Okay, we've got one more question for you. Obviously, we don't know it. So for the podcast, we are starting a new segment, I guess. And we have a little jar here of random questions. So these are questions that have come from viewers and listeners of the podcast, and they've come from group chats that I'm in, motorsport group chats. So shall we see what you get?
Yeah.
Let me just shake it up a bit. Don't be nervous. Pick one. Do you want me to read it? Because you can't read my handwriting.
I'll read it.
Okay.
And if I can't, I'll just give it to you. Okay. I'm going to say that's an F. Otherwise, that wouldn't make sense. So, what is the weirdest question that you've been asked by a fan of your work?
Oh. Well, I had one yesterday. It's not really that weird. It was quite random. The Freddie Slater hat I got yesterday, the yellow one that's sponsored by the tyres, someone screenshotted my own picture, sent it to me and went, "Are you selling this?"
You just got gifted it that day and they're like, yeah, so...
Weirdest question? Probably someone asking for my autograph. That's
no way.
Yeah.
Have you had any of your driver friends ask you any weird questions?
I remember I got a message once going, "What's your address?"
Surely something good came out of that though.
Yeah, it was a Christmas present, so I was vibing.
I love that.
I get asked like loads of random things, but then they don't come to me. I don't know. I'll think about that one. I'll get back to you.
You can let me know later on.
So many random things.
I love that. All right, Jess, we've absolutely loved having you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much.
That's okay. We will tag Jess below in everything. Make sure you go and follow her on all social media. Jess, where can people find you?
On Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Jess Trackside Media.
There we go. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. First, thank you for being in our first video podcast of the year. That's very cool.
Been very
and okay, we'll see you guys soon. All the love. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.